more for you, you feel it. You know it. This is your life, and it's time to go from contender to champion. This is The Show with John Madsen.
Welcome back to The Show, everybody. I'm your host, John Madsen. This is The Show. Welcome back. This is episode number 2 of the new year, 2020. And I'm super excited about it. So today we're going to dive right in. I've got a lesson that I want to share with you that I think you're going to find super powerful because it's the beginning of the new year. It's the beginning of a new decade, and you have goals, you have targets. And I want to talk about why so many people come up short in trying to achieve their goals, and something that can give you the fuel that you're actually going to need if you're going to make this year a year that's different. Now, when I talk to you about anything on this show, I want to remind you that I'm not some guru that has every single thing figured out. I've told you before that I make mistakes just like you do. I have failures just like you do. But the one thing that if you haven't experienced a lot of success and you're listening to this show and you're wanting something different in 2020, the one thing that may be different between you and I is that I just fail quickly. I fail often, but I don't let it stunt my growth. In fact, I don't look at failure as failure at all. I've had to learn this, but I've learned to look at all failures, all obstacles as simple lessons. And the more responsibility you can take in those lessons, the better off you're going to be. One of my mentors from afar, definitely never met him before, is a late Jim Rohn. And one of the things that he said in one of his audio courses that I took long ago, or one of the books that I read, is don't wish for things to be easier, wish to be better. And I can't think of something more powerful, something that I have to think about on a daily basis in chasing my own fitness goals, my own business goals, my own relationship goals. Because sometimes we get caught up in this victim mentality where you just wish that things were going to be easier. And when it comes to your body, if it were easy, everybody would have the body that you dream of. Everybody would have the body that they could be proud of. But when you go to the beach or you go walk around Costco or you go walk around the mall this weekend, you'll notice that 95% of people are walking around in bodies that they aren't proud of, that they're prisoners to. And the same thing goes for business. If it were easy, everybody would have millions of dollars. Everybody would own big companies. Nobody would have financial stress, which would be awesome, but it's simply not reality. People out there struggle because they're victims to their circumstance. They hope and wish that it's easier instead of making the sacrifice needed to get better. Don't wish for things to be easier. Wish to become better. Super, super impactful. Today's lesson, I'm going to talk about giving you the actual fuel that you're going to need if you're going to make 2020 your year, if you're going to make the 20s your decade. Because I've had this realization over and over again. I've been a goal setter for a long time, and most of the time I don't hit my goals. Most of the time I eventually hit my goals, but in the time period that I want to hit them, I don't hit them. And I used to get really upset about that because I wanted to know why I would write my goals down and they wouldn't happen. We talked about only 1% of the population even take the time to write their goals down, which is absurd. But for a long time, I would write the goal down, but when the year came to an end, I wouldn't hit it. And I have these note cards from 2017, 2018. and I still have them. And I have written on the note cards some of my goals. In fact, as I'm recording this, I have a picture of my baby girl, and on the back I have a goal that I wrote down 2 years ago. So I've always written down the goals. And most of the time, it would take more time than I gave myself to actually accomplish the goal. Some of the goals I still haven't hit. But now I have a new way of looking at that, and I have a reason for me not hitting a lot of the goals that I set out for. And this is a revelation that is super powerful for me, and it's going to be super, super powerful for you. 95% of our day is done on autopilot, is simply an unconscious pattern that we're running. We think we have free will, and that may or may not be an illusion. But the fact of the matter is 95% of our actions are done without consciously thinking about it. And I started to think about the goals that I've had for a long time. And I'm starting to think about the goals that the clients that I work with have had for a long time. And chances are you are setting out to make your goals this year, and it might be the same financial number that you had last year. It might be the same exact number on the scale that you had last year. You may have been chasing 125 pounds, and you've written down that goal for the past 3 years, but you keep coming up short. It might be that you have a goal of making $1 million, and you've had this $1 million goal, and you wrote it down in 2016, and you wrote it down in 2017, and you wrote it down in 2018. And the thing that I came to realize, and this was brought to my attention by one of my mentors, is that my actual goal-setting process was on autopilot. I think that I want these things. Consciously, I want these things. But I unconsciously go through the same process, write down the same goal, and think that this year is going to be better than last year. Even though that sounds stupid, and even though consciously, in my mind, I was going to put more effort into certain places this year to actually hit the goal, and I would take little learning lessons from the previous year, I would still come up short at the end of the year. My unconscious goal-setting process was a problem, and I'm going to tell you why it's a problem for me, and I'm going to tell you why it's a problem for you, and I'm going to tell you what you can do about it today. But you're going to have to do the work. In the past, I've done an episode on separating the feelings from the facts, and how a lot of people run on feelings instead of facts. Today, I'm going to actually tell you that I want you to get into your feelings. I want you to feel your feelings. I want you to feel your dissatisfaction. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to take the goal that you have for this year, and then we're going to take the feelings that you have had this past year in 2019, feelings that are not comfortable, feelings that are feelings of dissatisfaction. Because if you do that, you can be moved by the way you actually want to feel, because you're so sick and tired of feeling like you felt in the past. Let's take fitness goals, for example. I want you to think about January 1st, 2021. So a whole year from now, a whole 12 months from now. What do you want to feel like? What do you want to feel like January 1st, 2021 about your body? And the way we're going to come up with these feelings is we're going to think about specific instances where you felt a certain way, where you felt so much dissatisfaction that you're sick and fucking tired of it. And you have to get into the deepness of these feelings. If there's a time that you can remember where you're walking into one of your favorite department stores or stores, and you pick up some clothes and you go and try them on, And what you thought was going to look good on you, when you looked at yourself in the mirror, you felt this disgust. And then you put the piece of clothing on and you felt even more terrible. And then you didn't buy the thing and you walked out there feeling way worse than you ever felt before you walked into that store. I actually know how this feels. I did a whole episode about how when I went full transformation mode about 2 years ago, I had already been in the fitness industry for 7 or 8 years. I had coached some of the world's best athletes. I had coached thousands of high school athletes, World Series champions, NFL players. A full roster of clientele crushing it. I had been working out 3 to 4 days a week. I had been eating what I thought was good food at the time. I did have a life-altering event where we had our first baby, and that threw me for a loop for a little bit. But there was an instant when I walked into Travis Matthew. I was at the mall and I was trying, and I've told this story before, so I'll tell it quickly. I was trying on a shirt for a Thanksgiving party or a Christmas party. It was right around the holidays, probably 2 years ago. And I took my shirt off and I went and I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, who the fuck is that guy? Literally remember feeling that exact feeling. Who the fuck is this guy? This doesn't represent fitness. This doesn't represent athleticism. This doesn't represent strength and power. This represents an inability to pay attention to the details. This is a direct representation of how my business is acting. And I remember feeling all of these thoughts. And it was so vivid and it was so real that I put the shirt down and I walked out of the mall and I decided that in the next couple months was going to commit so hard to becoming in the best physical and mental shape that I've ever been in, that it wasn't even a question anymore of whether or not I was going to hit it. And if you've listened to this show, you've seen some of the pictures of what happened when I did that. It wasn't a long transformation because I had built up a solid base before, but it was a ridiculous transformation in a pretty short amount of time because I was fucking tired of feeling the way that I felt in that dressing room. So what I want you to do is think about what you want to feel like in a year. And you have to write this shit down. You can't just be driving in your car right now thinking, yeah, you know what, John, this sounds good. What do I want to feel like? And you think about it for fucking 3 seconds and then you never think about it again. You literally, tonight or tomorrow morning, make a list of how you want to feel about your body 12 months from now. If you went to the beach and you took off your shirt and you thought to yourself, oh my God, I look like shit, or I don't want to take off my shirt. Or if you're a woman and you're like, I don't want to wear this bikini in front of my husband. Or if you're a man and you're like, I don't really want to, I wonder what my wife thinks about my body. Or if you were at the beach with a group of friends and there's always that one fitness friend who just looks incredible all the time, and dude takes off his shirt and he has a chiseled six-pack and you look at him and you're like, fuck it, I'm keeping my shirt on. If you want to feel athletic, if you want to feel strong, if you want to feel powerful, you have to get into these feelings. And the way you're going to come up with these feelings is you're going to think about all the opposite feelings that you felt in 2019 where you felt like shit. How do you want to feel? Because here's the thing. Before and right now, you're probably just thinking that, you know what? All that shit will go away if I just wait a certain amount. If the number on the scale just said a certain thing. And just like money, that's not the case. And this is where I kept fucking up in goal setting. You unconsciously set the number that you probably set last year, that you probably set the year before, and you start thinking to yourself that you're full of shit because you can never hit the fucking target. So unconsciously you're setting goals and you never get into the fucking feelings that are going to drive you out of the hell that you feel. The feelings, if you can get into them, are what the number is going to represent. The pride. The going to your favorite department store and trying on clothes and looking fucking awesome. Going to an event where you can put on the dress or you can put on the suit and it fucking fits and you feel like a fucking champion. The confidence. The vibrancy, the energy, whatever the feeling that you want, you have to understand it. And the only way to understand it is to really dig deep into the dissatisfaction. Because that is what's going to move you. Just like when I walked out of that department store, it sparked the transformation that I fucking needed, not only in my body, but my business too. If you have financial goals, like you probably do, if you own a business, no matter what you do, if you want to save more money, there's always this number. And I kept thinking that if I could just get to the number, everything would be solved. But just thinking about a number and putting it on a piece of paper without getting into the fucking feelings of what I didn't want to feel like anymore and what I was sick and fucking tired of, I was just going to keep doing what I've always done. I want to feel free. So my number has to represent freedom. If I make the decision that I'm never going to fly unless it's first class again, I don't want to have to look up a flight on Delta and contemplate whether I should or shouldn't purchase the first class seat. And think, well, it's $600 more. Is it really worth it? Blah, blah. Fucking, I don't care. And that doesn't mean that you have to care about that stuff. But if that's what I care about, and I'll tell you right now, I fucking care about that because I'm 6'5" and I hate flying coach, then that means something to me, right? But I have to get into those feelings. I don't want to open up the bank account and wonder whether or not I should or should not purchase the first class flights. There was a feeling I had a couple years ago where I was like, I'm working on a little laptop. I want a desktop and I want the biggest and baddest Mac desktop there is. And so you go in there and some of those computers are, I don't know, $4,000 or $5,000. And I start talking myself out of the need to have the top of the top computer and I could just get this computer. And that's fine for some people. That's like first world problems, and I get that. But for me, the goals that I'm chasing, the feelings that I don't want to feel, stupid or not stupid, is that I just want to buy the fucking computer that I want, and I don't want to worry about the fucking price. For some of you, that might mean, you know what? Twice a month, I'm going to take my wife out to dinner. We're going to go to the nicest restaurant. And they might as well not have the fucking prices on the motherfucking menu because I don't give a fuck. Maybe that's freedom to you. But see, if you just put a number down, you're not going to give yourself the fuel necessary to chase the goal relentlessly. The feelings about what you felt and how dissatisfied you were are going to drive you to hit your goal. If and only if you can get really, really real about specific feelings that you felt that you never want to feel again. Because that way, if we're talking about your fitness again and you want to order cookies that come right to your doorstep, and there's apps for this shit now, right before you hit that button to purchase, you can remember the fucking feelings that you don't want to feel. And you don't hit that button. Because it's just not a number on the scale that you unconsciously think about. You're literally driven by the desired feelings 12 months from now. The very next step of this is to get into the actual facts. And we've already kind of done that. So we got really, really clear on the feelings that you want to feel. And part of those feelings are driven by the actual facts of your life right now. So before you can move forward, if you want to feel some of the feelings that you came up with, then you have to also write down exactly where you're at this moment in time. I want to feel like a champion when I go to the beach. What are the facts that are going to make that happen? This is where some numbers could be important. But when I go to the beach, I want to weigh 240 pounds and I want to take off my shirt and see bricks for abs. That'll make me feel like a champion. Facts. In order for me to feel free, for me to purchase first class flights whenever the fuck I want, I'm going to have X amount on my bank account, or I'm going to have X amount cash flow. So you move from the feelings that you want to have to the facts of actually what you must do in order to have those feelings. Okay, so there's that. So there's this whole process. You go from wanting to feel a certain way, and that's solely based on the dissatisfaction that you've felt in the past, and then the actual facts that must happen if you're going to feel the way you want to feel the way you want to feel 12 months from now. This is the most powerful lesson on goal setting I think I could give you. Because if I simply let you write down a goal, and even if you take that one step ahead and you write down some processes to make that goal happen, you're still missing the fuel that's going to get you off of the runway. You have to know how you want to feel. And how you want to feel is going to be directly based on how you don't want to feel and how dissatisfied you were. Use that. You have to use that fuel if you're ever going to hit your goals. Once again, guys, I did this process. So I'm not just speaking to you through a microphone and broadcasting how awesome I am. There's feelings that I felt of huge dissatisfaction, even in 2019. Everybody has some dissatisfaction. That doesn't mean that we're ungrateful. What that means is that we're grateful and unsatisfied. It's two different things, so don't mistake this. I'm very, very grateful. I have a ton of gratitude. But I'm also dissatisfied in some of the areas, just like you are. So it's okay to realize exactly where that dissatisfaction is coming from and never want that shit again. You'll unlock the power to create whatever kind of life you want if you have the courage to ask the important questions. If you never ask these questions, you never get the fuel. You never get the juice that it's going to take for you to actually get what you want.
Thank you so much for joining us for another amazing episode of The Show with John Madsen. The greatest compliment that you could give us is liking, loving, and sharing this episode with all of your friends. So please go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and review, and then share it online with everyone that you know. Make sure to tag John as well. He loves to hear from listeners of the show. The links for all of his socials and iTunes are in the show notes. Also, if you'd like to engage John for anything related to his coaching, consulting, or programs, please visit johnmadsen.com for everything you'd need to know on how to engage with John offline. And lastly, thank you for your time, your attention, and your consideration. This is The Show.